is disorder.
Is that we never have them.
Well, it's hard to truly recognize something that's never been there is missing.
I fell into a habit of watching a British TV show called QI.
That show is quite interesting. Yes, it's
while playing Terraria. So now every time I play Terraria, I have QI running in the background.
That's pretty good.
And Stephen Fry is doing the most marvelous jokes.
Oh, Stephen Fry is an amazing host. He really is.
Yeah. Give me a second. I have a bit of a limerick that he said at one point in the show.
No rush.
There it is. Post it in the chat.
There was a young chaplain from King's who talked about God and such things, but his real desire was a boy in the choir with a bottom like jelly on springs. That is pretty good. Anyways, welcome to Depths of Gaming, episode 42.
Greetings! What a wonderful show we have for you today.
Indeed. We have a mixture of news that will confuse you as well as entertain you, and then confuse you again.
Yes. Sadly, not much been happening in the world of games, but we did manage to get around few things that are at least of some interest to us.
The world of games. Homeland Security has begun unveiling a new module for their training program called the Enhanced Dynamic Geosocial Environment, or EDGE. Which
sounds edgy.
It's really edgy because it's first responder training software, and so
what do they train?
In this new module is for school shootings.
Ooh. Oh, right, because you there in America have
well, this has become a serious problem. It just keeps happening every 3 months now, and it's very unfortunate. As teachers are already like paranoid sociopaths to begin with. The last thing they need is evidence.
Oh yes, every person with power is paranoid.
Oh
they have to be.
I remember it, and because I was in school before this became a serious thing, so even then they were like, oh, you can't talk about guns, you can't think about guns, you can't say bad words, but you better fucking not talk about guns. Like, it was just stupid.
If you point a finger at someone with an imitation of a gun and say bang bang, you're dead, they kick you out of school.
Yeah, they drop the kibosh on you. It's insane. And now there's all of this shit actually happening, and there's actual logic behind that paranoia. So it's very unfortunate. But onto the I'm hesitant to call it a game because it's really not. But unfortunately, it really is. It's a 40-player multiplayer environment that this program is. And it's meant to train first responders how to behave in these situations. So, as you can see in this picture, there are different roles that you can be. You can be the shooter, you can be a teacher, you can be the cops, and you're trying to behave in a way that befits your role. So the teachers are trying to keep damage to a minimum. The police are trying to keep damage to a minimum. The shooter is the opposite, trying to cause as much damage as possible. And so there's a lot of simulative aspects. You can lock doors, you can use intercoms, you can you have a lot of control in where you're able to tell the students to hide. So you're able to have them cower, you're able to have them line up. And this is beneficial because the main way you protect people in a school shooting is you maneuver kids so that you can't be seen through the windows, because the logic here is most shooters aren't gonna crack the door open and look in every single room. They don't have time. So it saves lives if they have to look or use any effort whatsoever to find people. Because movies will like show you the person looking around and like very slowly checking under desks and shit. They don't do that. They're trying to move room to room, do as much damage as possible.
Yeah, however, I would argue that the school shooters, right, they want to, the most amount of violence they want to unload on their own like classmates and their own teachers. So they're going to study and plan the school and the schedule until they nail it, and then they're just going to pop out of the box, as to say, and just kill those people where they know where they are, right?
Right.
So in that sense, the all the other victims are kind of a cherry on top of the pie for those people, because they are sick like that.
And the other issue is the majority of schools march you out to the fields to do a head count, and I'm pretty sure they do the same thing for shooter drills. So that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, show your shooter all the people at once.
Yeah, let's get everyone to a wide open field where with their street legal machine gun they can mow everyone down.
Are machine guns street legal?
Probably in Texas.
Maybe. I know that there's this thing called the reflexive. I
mean, the current controversy is the bump stock, which
the bump stock, yes.
Which through fairy dust, it kajiggers the hoo-ha to shoot the leady thing faster.
Yeah, basically, people who are apt at using the bump are actually capable of shooting it as fast as a machine gun.
It's the same. It's the same way that you can actually fan fire a revolver. Is you basically manually force the trigger to move faster than it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Or the firing mechanism.
You don't squeeze every single time because that's slow. So what you do is you just keep your finger steady and let the action of the bullet shooting, the recoil, to push the trigger.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It is. But moving on to Consortium, The Tower, which has entered early access. So, the story of this whole series is interesting because this indie company came out in 2014 with the game Consortium, which was heavily criticized because it was trying to break the mold so hard that it kind of didn't realize that there has to be some part of the mold left.
There's basically a difference between being creating something new and being pretentious.
Yeah.
And lots of new creators do not know that difference. And frankly, I'm going to be honest here. I don't know either. But
The thing with Consortium...
They fell into that trap.
Yeah. The thing with Consortium is you can talk to everyone, you can have meaningful conversations with everyone, your choices matter in a Deus Ex-y kind of choose-your-own-adventure way. There are kind of overall attitudes that your character can fit into. So that's interesting. But the problem is they give you the gun, the ammo types, the armor, and all this, and there's only like 2 points of the game, the beginning and the end, where you actually get to shoot people. Because you're in this little fucking plane the whole game. And
it's the command center.
Yeah, and the characters all have these really uninspired chess names.
Like the Rook?
Yeah, like Rook 9, Rook 5, Pawn 3, that kind of shit. So it's really, really hard to give a shit who's who. You never remember what number who's who is. You have to study that shit. So it's really hard to actually understand... or not really understand, but it's really hard to emphasize with any of these characters if you can't remember their name. So
yeah, basically, what's the problem in calling him John? Right?
Yeah, so like you said, they were trying to they tried too hard. They became very pretentious in the first game. Now, here's the
Now there's the second game.
Now, here's the great thing about Consortium, the tower. They drop you on the tower without any of those other fuckers you can't remember the name of.
So, all
You're
of the
free.
happenings of the previous game
free.
don't matter.
Yes.
You're free.
Everything that happened in the last game you can comfortably fucking forget.
I love when the games do that. They basically introduce a sequel and allow the
By the way,
players to...
we're an episodic game, but nothing in the first game mattered.
Yeah. Well, that's basically how early TV shows work. Basically, the Star Trek, all the famous TV shows, they never had an overarching story. You never had to watch the previous episode to understand what's happening in the current one.
Right.
And with the advent of the video on demand, now we can watch the entire season at once. And so the need for the overarching stories appears to be more important. And the same can be said for games.
Well, the thing about stories is they have the tendency to kind of hook people. People get interested. And so that's why the episodic TV format just kind of went the way of the dodo over time. I mean, it's still heavily used in a lot of content, but for TV shows, not so much anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. And what's actually interesting about the tower, I watched the trailer today, and I even commented to you that the guy basically went up to one of the enemies and simply pushed him over the edge, and it was glorious to see how to get this catharsis of pushing someone off the edge.
Yeah, you can be... That's the thing about this game, is for everything that we're going to say about it, at least it lets you play it the way you want to play it. If you want to be a douchebag that just belts people over the balcony, you can do it.
Yeah. It reminds me of Hitman a lot. Because in Hitman you could also just play around on one level just to kill everybody.
Yeah, that's kind of what Consortium is I call it the John McClane simulator, because it sets a lone badass on a tower full of terrorists.
Yeah, basically you happen on a tower and you need to clear up the terrorists. and that's basically what they do in the Christmas movie Die Hard.
Yeah, it's the John McClane simulator. So that's the cool thing. I mean, there's here's the thing is the I'm going to throw a lot of names here. Omicron the Nomad Soul was a game where it tells you immediately, by the way, you're still you, I'm still me, but you are going to jump through your computer and become me. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what happens in this game. Is you are told you're not actually this character, but you are this character, but you're not actually this character.
Interesting.
And so it's really meta, it's really hokey, and I hope you aren't sick of it by the end of the first game, because it's probably going to keep happening.
Listen, if this is certainly something that the developers are passionate about, that they think that the games need something like that, because no other games has it. Maybe there's a reason no other game has it. Maybe someone else thought about it and thought it's a stupid idea, but they really believe in it. And you know what? I can actually admire them for sticking to their guns and trying to push their idea of a game.
And that's why I'm kind of forgiving why it's 4 years down the pipe, because it takes time to do the kind of stuff that they're promising. Because this is the kind of game where you walk around like whole floors of buildings. Like, there's a lot of that System Shock sort of adventure RPG sci-fi that for the longest time people only associated with games like Ultima or Diablo, like this strictly fantasy dungeon crawling, where this is a very high-tech approach to it. And apparently the enemy AI is really good, because they're very good at spotting you, because they have like AR HUDs and shit like you do.
Oh, that's actually quite interesting, because I'm sometimes really sick of games that have enemies that are completely and utterly blind to your presence.
Oh, then you should check out Eye Divine Cybermancy. Everyone has cyber eyes, so unless you use invisibility powers, they will fucking spot you from a long distance away.
Yeah. I believe that there's so much text in this game. It makes it very difficult to play. Or at least to enjoy.
What, Consortium?
No, I the Divine Cybermancy.
That too! I mean, thankfully, almost everything's going to be voiced in this game, so you have that going for you. They're doing the last passes, like, it promises to be an 8-hour game. Like, I'm excited for this.
They're still in the pre-alpha stage, right?
Yeah, they're at the point where not everything has been scripted and put in yet, but it's all kind of been done.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
They basically said something along the lines that the first stage of the tower has more content than the entirety of the first game.
Yes, that they say that on the early access page, that the tower already has more content than the first game, which sounds more impressive than it actually is.
At least they know what they're doing this time around, because making games is incredibly difficult.
It's difficult. It really is. Yeah. I mean, we make fun of a lot of games and game developers, but there's a lot of work put into this. So
yeah, but sometimes people deliberately try to screw that work off, like businessmen in suits from EA.
Well, EA and also Nexon.
Oh, the Nexon.
They conspire. They conspire like rats in boardrooms.
But we get the transcripts. We know what they're up to.
The transcripts that they are obligated to put out.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. See, we always make fun of corporations too. We're like, oh, okay, corporations are so evil and they never think about us. Oh, by the way, normal citizens, you're allowed to see the transcripts of our meetings because we're not the shadow douchebags that you see in shows like Humans and in
The House of Cards
or Mr. Robot.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have to obey the law, right? And that's at least some measure of control that the public has over these big corporations.
At least
so,
until the
anyway.
Oompa Loompa in chief signs another executive order.
Yes.
So Nexon released a transcript, and in it they state that lawbreakers lost them a lot of money.
No shit, Sherlock.
Holy shit.
But it was not their fault.
No,
it's never
of course
their
not.
fault.
It's never their fault. No, you see, they say in the transcript that it was actually PubG's fault because PubG came out at around the same time
and was successful.
It was very difficult to break into the shooter genre. Now, let us count the ways that is a lie. Number 1, PubG originally came out in March last year, where Lawbreakers came out. Oh god, I have to look that
when
up.
Lawbreakers came out, wasn't around the same time as Overwatch, Paladins, and Battleborn came out?
Yeah, I suppose those games matter too, because Lawbreakers came out in August.
Yeah,
and PUBG officially released in December.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're claiming is that an indie game from first quarter is the reason that their fourth quarter game failed.
Yes, because their reasoning is basically that PUBG has saturated the market with the shooter market, and so everybody was playing PUBG, and they didn't really care that much to buy any other shooters. That's the reason why they failed. However, I am not so convinced. I am more considering the fact that they created a game that was generic. Every single if you look at Overwatch and every silhouette of every character, you will see that every single one has a different silhouette. Just like in Team Fortress, they're different. They represent it. At a glance, in a millisecond, you know what to expect of your enemy.
Absolutely.
You cannot do the same thing in that game. It's simply every single person in Lawbreakers has exactly the same frame.
Yeah, and that's something. That's why in many MOBAs every character looks drastically different now, and that's because you have to be able to know what each character is capable of at a glance. It is critical in a multiplayer game.
Yeah, it is a split-second strategy creation. You need to know what's happening around you, who's there, and what their capabilities are. So in this split-second esports kind of fashion, you can create several strategies and then follow up on them.
Now, to be clear, this is not a everybody does it argument. This is just a common courtesy that you should show to your players because it helps them play your game better.
Yes. It basically there's a lot that goes into the design of games, which
Lawbreakers
as we said
so
before,
generic and boring.
Yeah, as we said before, the art of creating games is incredibly difficult, and every single thing matters and can make or break your game. So people think that, oh, I'm going to be a game maker. I'm going to make games and shooters and all sorts of stuff, and it's going to be amazing, and I'm going to make millions. And usually the reality is no.
No, because that requires a level of effort that the majority of people just don't want to commit to. Because it is a lot of effort that not only do you usually not know what you're doing to create that effort, but you also need to sacrifice quite a lot for it.
True, and there's another problem because when it comes to sacrifices, when you are a company like Nexon, a developer, you have also a publisher that you are responsible to, and suddenly but they have the business people that they are responsible to. They have to make money, right? And that leads with it another set of strings that you can get yourself tangled in.
Well, yeah, because they always have to answer to their investors.
Yeah, because Nexon here actually said to us in their transcript that about their microtransactions, right? That they what did they say exactly?
Well, something that is perpetuated throughout their transcripts is that they are a free-to-play... Their whole thing is making free-to-play games that convince people to become paying players. And they state that several of their properties have become self-perpetuating sources of funding for their new efforts. And so games that they pay minimal maintenance cost on make them a lot of money.
Yes. They basically said also something that people are glad to be... They pay the money because they're glad that they're paying.
Well, in the question and answer segment, someone asks what the cause was of there being a dramatic increase in users that became payers. And he said something along the lines of they discovered the joy of being paying players.
Oh, God. So cliche.
So you got that to think about, that a lot of these people that are pushing around the money don't actually know what the money they're pushing around is doing. In a lot, in the same way,
they basically think that spending money makes you happy somehow. That there is no such a thing as being forced to hand over your money in order to have a decent experience in playing the game. Basically being pestered to pay the money, and they think that it's bringing you some kind of joy and not actually devaluating their brand.
Right.
Which is a complete and short-sighted look, if you ask me. But I don't really matter. The people who matter are actually the business people who apparently don't see.
Because the majority of their games are coming out in places like Korea and Taiwan and stuff like that. And Lawbreakers was their attempt to break into our audience. And their new attempt is they bought up a mobile game company that's going to develop shitty mobile games for them called Pixelberry Studios.
It sounds in the same vein like Zynga even, Pixelberry.
So Lawbreakers came out for a $30 price tag or something like that. And the thing about buy-to-play games is not only are they not what Nexon typically invests in, but holy crap, was Lawbreakers just a generic, horrible game. And that's the issue with these buy-to-play games, is they seem to think that they can slap the same mechanics of a MOBA into it and people will just happily keep playing it. When the issue with these games is they need to continually get new blood because people tire out. They just tire out. And so you can't legitimately expect that people are going to keep playing these fucking $20 to $30 games. It's not going to happen.
Apparently, other hits from Nexon are Counter-Strike Nexon Zombies.
Yeah. Which,
imagine if Minecraft had sex with Counter-Strike.
Essentially that. Well, it's literally what they've been playing over there, but just kind of ported over here, because everything becomes a MOBA in that market.
Every single fucking,
like they're getting a Titan Strike MOBA. Did you know that?
Oh God, really?
It's in the transcript. Their Korea is getting a Titan Strike MOBA.
God damn it! But every single fucking executive got their knicker in a twist ever since they realized that free games make money out of selling items inside the game, and then suddenly, oh God, we can make games into platform to sell products that do not actually cost anything to produce.
I mean, that's why these novel new shooter settings are coming out now. It's kind of like when we look at children's movie and go, oh, that was just an excuse to sell toys. Like, we're getting duped again.
Yeah, there's executives always will find a way to fuck up good concepts and make them horrible again. It just makes me sad.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. Moving on to an answer that nobody wanted.
Ooh.
Running a module stresses me out, by Jay Vockler. I usually run homebrew campaigns and loosely plan the night's activities and run it kind of on the fly. I've had a lot of fun and success with it. Got a Princes of the Apocalypse for Christmas. Just ran the first session and it stressed me out. I kept having to refer to the book, which stopped play way more than I like. I was constantly worried, and that I was making mistakes in the story that would derail everything. Am I doing something wrong? This felt much harder than just going on the fly. What do you guys think? Well, yeah, I've experienced that because I'm kind of I really do not want to call myself a perfectionist because I'm not, but when it comes to the story, I want it to go as intended, as written. I don't know. When I see rules written down, I try to do them perfectly if I can. It's just something I'm into. I'm very particular in that way. So I understand the hesitance when you run something out of the book. You want it to go exactly as the book suggests. However, by nature of the medium, it's impossible because every group will have a different idea of how to handle the situations in the book.
Yeah, you basically have to learn how to improvise. D&D is all about improvisation. There are ways for you to do logical flip-flops and somersaults in order to either get the group back on track or run with what the group wants to do and try to form an adventure around that and modify the adventure itself. It's much more useful than actually sticking strictly to what the module has to say.
Right, because that's the difference between a World of Darkness adventure and a D&D adventure. Is a World of Darkness adventure is scripted like a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to meet this character at this point who's going to do this thing, and you are intended to do one of three things, and that's how the story branches. Where a D&D adventure is quite literally just notes on an area and ideas of how to go through it, because you are essentially expected to do a lot of the filling in of things. Out of the Abyss, for example, is a very unforgiving adventure for both the players and the GM, because not only is it mostly travel based, which the majority of players can't really comprehend.
You put one foot in front of the other? How does that work?
Well, they play D&D to fight people usually.
I understand.
And then on the flip side, there's also a lot of encounters in combat that's supposed to drag it out quite a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pacing of the adventure, the way it's written, it's extremely difficult to keep motivated in Out of the Abyss, because the story is not fed to you in any way. You are kind of just idiots lost in the abyss, and you kind of want to get out, but it's an illusion. You can't actually escape the fucking abyss because the plot demands that you stay there.
Yeah.
What they actually want you to do is go to Gonalgrim.
Ooh.
So,
and people don't do that.
Well,
because
you have to basically tell them that, oh no, you're completely wrong for your natural instinct of wanting to escape, but you do want to go to Gonalgrim.
You have internal feeling that the Gonalgrim is something important.
Because you are able to get out of the abyss through Gonalgrim. That is something you can do. It's just that they offer you another place where you're supposed to get out, and it's very easy to do so there. I don't know, but either way, there are those kinds of problems when it comes to the official adventures. Now, the newer adventures are thankfully mostly just recreations of old dungeons that have been written before. So, you have that going for you. And when it comes to those, what's important is that you recognize that there's going to be more than what the text tells you. Is you're allowed to throw monsters in there. You're allowed to throw more traps in there. So it's all about gauging the adventure towards your party. Anything to add?
No, I think we covered everything.
All right.
A splendid job, my friend.
Then that is our show.
Thank you everyone for listening. And please join us again next week.
Same Depths of Gaming channel.